Welcome to Central News for Tuesday, 13th of August. I'm Amy Forrest. In today's news, Loaves and Fishes volunteers deliver over 200 lunches to school children throughout 10 Hamilton schools, whose teachers have identified them as consistently not bringing food to school. The initiative is just a small part of St Vincent de Paul's larger Good Neighbourhood project, which sees volunteers making the lunches, organising community event functions and training opportunities. Hamilton's General Manager Mike Rolton says there is a huge need for this project in Hamilton.
The need in Hamilton for the services that we provide is real, it's ongoing, and it's almost immeasurable, the help that we have to give the people to survive.
Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, the rain is easing to showers for you for your Wednesday with a high of 13 and a low of 7. And much the same for you, Tauranga, with a high of 15 and a low of 7. Just ahead, the English Learners Corner. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. New migrants keen to develop their English language skills can now do so through a new weekly initiative at Hamilton Library. These sessions have been developed by a Waikato University student, Jackson Mason Mackay. Hi Jackson, now tell me, what led you to believe that there was a need for this initiative in Hamilton?
Yeah, well, I suppose the need was really identified for me. I volunteer at the Refugee Orientation Centre, where I help out at their weekly catch-up program for refugee high school students. And through my involvement there, I've gotten to know the students as well as the coordinators of the program, and many of whom are migrants themselves and are very active and influential in their respective communities. And I was just talking to them one day about learning English, and they were saying, you know, to learn English, or any language for that matter, you really need to be able to practice it. And for many English learners in Hamilton, they live in communities and households where people don't really speak English. So those opportunities to practice are kind of lacking. And yeah, they were just sort of saying that there was a real need for some kind of program that addressed this issue. And I thought, I can do that. I mean, how easy is that? I know so many university students who are fluent English speakers and have the time and could come along and do this kind of thing, so I thought, why not?
And how did Hamilton City Library respond to the request to host these sessions?
They were wonderful. So I thought a bit about where might be the best place to hold these sorts of sessions, and the Central Library sort of stood out as very accessible and recognisable and central, so I thought it would be a good spot. And when I contacted them, they were very welcoming and very warm, and wanted to meet me and talk about the program and how we can make it as good as it can be. And they've been wonderful at promoting it as well. They printed out all these posters for me and contacted a lot of different groups to really get the word out there. So yeah, they've been really helpful.
Now, how are these sessions being funded?
So it's run by Golden Key, hence the sign behind me. So Golden Key is an international honours society. It's focused on promoting academic achievement, leadership and community service. And it has chapters at universities all over the world, including one at the University of Waikato. So we have our chapter here, and we're about promoting all of those things. So this initiative is something that we've set up, and that's where we get our funding, and that's where virtually all of our volunteers are from. So it's been a really great way to get resources for this.
And tell me, how have your past experiences led to this?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I've had a lot of involvement with the Refugee Orientation Centre, and that's sort of given me the context and the knowledge to sort of set something like this up. So that's sort of my background.
And how do you think these sessions differ to other English language facilities?
Well, it's much more informal. There's no kind of curriculum or any sort of clear teaching like most formal English language programs would have. There's no accreditation or anything like that. It's just a really friendly, simple avenue for English learners to come and practice their English.
So tell me about the first session. How did it go?
It was so good. It was a really good first session. I anticipated that this would be something that would grow rather than start off strong. You know, in the first session I was expecting maybe 8, 9 English learners to come along, and from there perhaps would build. But on our first day we had over 30 migrants come through, and it was just such a happy environment. We had people from all over the world, so many different countries, and you know, the volunteers as well, I could just tell they really enjoyed it. After the first session, they just came back beaming, you know, saying that it was a really great experience, and I got some really good feedback. So I have a little suggestions box that I put at the front so that people can write comments and give feedback. And after the first day, it was just filled with compliments, just saying, you know, this was great, we really enjoyed this, and thank you so much for setting this up. So it was really nice to get that kind of recognition, and it was an amazing first day.
And I suppose it's a great place for people who are new to Hamilton to get together and meet as well?
Yeah, well, it's had this kind of really great unintended effect, but wonderful effect of kind of bringing together a lot of people from lots of different communities who might not normally interact. So yeah, that's a really cool aspect as well.
And what do you hope to see that will come of this in the future?
I hope it continues and it grows and word keeps spreading, and then people know that this is something they can come and take part in, and that it spreads. You know, there's no reason why this couldn't be happening in Auckland or Wellington or centres across the country, because it's such a simple service, but it's you know, it's proven to be really popular and useful. So yeah.
Now tell me about Golden Key and how it's associated.
Okay, so I am the Community Service Director for Golden Key, and yeah, so like I said before, part of what we do is promoting and getting involved with community service. So that's my area, and yeah, it's just something that Golden Key is really interested in doing, and that's how it's come up.
And if people want to get involved, how can they do so?
Well, any English learners who are keen to come and practice their English, that more than anyone is more than welcome to come. It's free. Come along, 6 p.m, Garden Place Library in Hamilton, or contact the Hamilton City Libraries, and they can give you all the information they need.
And what about volunteers?
Any volunteers? We have so many volunteers. So I emailed out the Golden Key database for all of the Golden Key members to see if people were interested. I was just blown away by the response. We have so many people willing to come, so I'm good for volunteers at the moment, but if you're really passionate and this is something that you know you'd love to do, then you're more than welcome to get in contact with, I suppose Hamilton City Libraries would be a good avenue, and they can get in contact with me, and yeah.
Up next, a chat with Mayor Julie Hardacre. Welcome back. We caught up with Mayor Julie Hardacre for our monthly update. This month we discussed the Waikato River and the Hamilton Gardens. Hi Julie, now can you give us a bit of an update as to what's been happening with the Waikato River?
Very exciting again. Look, we seem to be doing lots of projects in the city, which is really exciting for everyone, I think. So we formed our working group, of course, for our river plan, and we've had a couple of meetings already for that. I think this is going to be a defining plan, actually, for our city for many, many generations to come. One of the things we did on the working group a couple of weeks ago, we went on the river itself, on the boat, down the river, and had a really, you know, up close and personal look, I guess, at what the landscape's like on the river, so that the working group could get a good understanding of the interface between the landform and the river. And, you know, fascinating journey, wonderful to actually be on the river. But what it shows, of course, is that a lot of the river is not accessible, that there's a lot of vegetation all over the river, and you can't see a lot of the river, or in fact on the river, see a lot of the landform. And a lot of the pathways are covered in, and of course that raises safety issues and use, you know, people are a bit nervous to do it on their own. So that was a really interesting experience. So where we're at now is we've gathering our information, and we're going to have a bit of a world tour of rivers in our next meeting. So around the world, about how other cities, including New Zealand cities, have dealt with their river and water frontages, and some of the things that they've done and why they've done them. So I think that'll be really useful information for us as well. And then we're going to start into the planning process. And I think, you know, the public, this is an opportunity for the public to talk about what they think are the most important things for them on the river. What we do know is people do want the river opened up more. They want it more accessible. I guess the question is, in what way do they want it more accessible? Is it just the vegetation, or is it actually things on the river? So it's going well. I'm very excited about this, and I know that a lot of people feel like we've been there before, but I think the group that has been formed has got a really strong commitment to really getting something exciting delivered for the city and taking the people on the journey with them. So watch the space, as they say, but I'm going to be giving you updates as we go along.
And you're looking at upgrading areas of the Hamilton Garden as well?
Yes, so this is a really exciting piece of work as well. So the Hamilton Garden's much loved, so we are continuing with our process there. We had a really great public open day, and we got a lot of feedback from the public, ideas that they had, and I guess a sort of a sifting of priorities for the public who use the gardens. You know, a lot of people do feel that they want to see some of the themed gardens brought on quicker for development. A lot of people do want to see some initiatives for more tourism at the gardens and ways we could deal with that. Seems to be a lot of resistance to any kind of paying and any kind of models where people would pay, although there was a little bit of interest in tourist paying, but not local people paying. So the group's going to have to work through that and where that might leave us. And you know, some of the other things we've got to think about with the gardens is, with the new ring road coming through to Cobham Drive, it will go over then into the Peacocks area, and that will come across the top of the gardens area. So how do we, you know, keep that beautiful environment with the gardens when we're going to have a really quite a large road at the top? So some exciting initiatives from NZTA and our transport staff on how to do that. So look, going really well. Again, some inspirational ideas coming through. And then once we've bedded all that down, that goes out for a formal process under the Reserve Management Act, where people get to have another say. So all good.
Now, why do you think these places are so important for Hamilton City?
Yeah, I think when you take a look at the city, particularly when you get up high, you see the greenness, and you see how much trees and vegetation are part of how the city looks. And then when you get down on the ground, it's very much about plants and trees and water. And I think that's why people are it's really part of who we are here. I think, personally, we have not made enough of the river. When people come to our city, one of the things they struggle to find is the river, and they often only see it when they drive over a bridge. So we have to do better. This is a river city, there's no doubt about that, but I don't think you would ever think about it in those terms when you come here. So we need to change that. That's our uniqueness, and I think our green environment is also our uniqueness. So I think those are the things that are in our DNA in Hamilton. But I think everyone wants them to be more part of what we've got here. So, you know, there's lots of excitement about rivers and the gardens and the greenness, and the council's listened to that and is picking that up. So it's very exciting. But, you know, things take time. Sometimes I wish they would hurry up, but I think we're going to get there, and I think the public will be thrilled.
How much does the tourism dollar bring to Hamilton's economy?
Yeah, so what we know about tourism in Hamilton is, and the Waikato generally, is that we are a high domestic tourism destination. So when you look at the figures that come out of the Regional Tourism Office, what they show is that there are places in New Zealand where New Zealanders like to go, and we're one of them. So that's great, because that means that there is a consistency of tourism coming in. We don't attract, as a city, huge amounts of international tourism. But what we are working on, and the Regional Tourism Office is working on, is getting international tourists to actually stay a night here. And there's lots of exciting things they're working on to do that. So that's about the experience at Hobbiton and the experience at the Waitomo Caves, and from the city point of view, the experience at the Hamilton Gardens. We really want to get that one in there so that people get to stay a night as an international tourist here. So the tourism dollar is a big one, but it's focused mostly on domestic tourism. And for the city, we have a strategy about developing business tourism, which links to our Claudelands Event Centre and conferences. So that is tracking very well. We're focusing on getting more hotels, because we need the hotels to service the conference market. But I think the combination of those three things is important and does bring millions of dollars into the economy of not only Hamilton, but the Waikato. And you know, the final thing I'd say about tourism is our biggest event still in the city is the Field Days, which isn't in our city, but all the people stay, or most of the people stay in Hamilton, and that still boosts our Hamilton economy hugely. And you know, and a Chiefs game, and the Rugby World Cup game does as well. But yeah, that's still our biggest winner, and I think that is a reflection, I guess, of the business aspect of what we do here in the city. Yeah, so again, lots of work being done and good focus, I think.
After the break, we discuss paid parental leave. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The 6-month paid parental leave amendment bill had its first reading in Parliament on the 27th of the 7th, 2012. From the start, the odds were stacked against the bill, but several groups rallied their support and made sure their voices were heard. Although the bill has been blocked due to costs, Key estimates $150 million extra a year. There is much debate over whether or not it will ever be extended. Tony Stevens from the Young Workers Resource Centre has been involved with the bill's submission to Parliament. We find out more. Hi Tony. So for those who are not familiar with your organisation, tell us a bit about the Young Workers Resource Centre.
Well, we actually exist to support young people in regards to employment. So we actually fill a gap in the New Zealand education curriculum. So we go into secondary schools and training centres and educate them on employment relations, things like their minimum rights and obligations. And we also actually offer free advice via our drop-in centre that we have here. And they can just come to us with any kind of employment related queries. Yeah.
Now, your organisation has been involved with the extending paid parental leave bill, and the President Megan Morris presented the bill to Parliament. So currently, what kind of support is being offered to mothers?
Well, obviously we have the current maternity leave scheme, and that offers about 14 weeks of paid parental leave to young parents, young mothers. And so that's 14 weeks paid at about, at the most, $480-ish a week, depending on how much you were getting paid before you took leave. And New Zealand is really at the bottom of the scale when we compare ourselves to other maternity leave entitlements from other countries in the OECD. We're actually the second lowest in the OECD. It's really bad. So if you compare us to the UK, they actually have 39 weeks paid, and Canada has about 50 weeks paid. So yeah, we're just really, we consider ourselves to be one of the fairest countries in the world, but we're really behind the 8 ball on this one.
Now, why do you believe it is not beneficial to mothers to re-enter the workforce after just 14 weeks?
Well, it's not just about mothers actually, it really comes down to the baby's welfare. They need to spend as much time with their mothers and their fathers to an extent as well as possible, especially in that all-important first year. Their first year is such a race to develop, all their neural pathways are developing, and to really make the most of that, they need to spend as much time with mum as possible, and she needs to be as not as stressed as possible. And she also, and research is showing that breastfeeding is really crucial as well. It's really good for a good head start for young babies. So how is a young mother supposed to be able to breastfeed if she's having to go back to work after 14 weeks? You know, that all-important first year is just vital. So this bill it's not a flight of fancy, it's not desirable, it's vital for the future of young Kiwis, yeah.
Now, the government have come forward with a response and said that they cannot afford to extend the paid parental leave until 2015. So are you happy with this response?
I don't know about happy. It's better than a kick in the rear, but it really needs, to me it just shows that they're not really investing in the future of young New Zealand. It shows me that investing in our children is not really a priority to them. I want to see it happen now. It needs to happen sooner rather than later. And the way that they're talking about vetoing it without even sort of considering the issue, they haven't even talked about it. They just said, nah, we're going to veto it. It just doesn't give me much confidence that 2015 is going to be the year that they look at it anyway. So I'm just quite sceptical around that. But,
Can anything else be done to perhaps bring forward that date?
Well, I think anyone who supports this issue just really needs to stand up and talk about it and get it in front of John Key, really push the issue as much as they can, really follow it as much as they can. The 26 for Babies group that sort of recently started to take flight is a good place to start for people who feel strongly about it. If they can go onto their website and learn about them and their Facebook, and they've actually got an e-postcard which they're sending off in batches to the Prime Minister, if people can support that. And they're also going around the country with that as well, so if you see them with it, definitely sign up for it, you know. So yeah, just really pushing the issue, continue to push it in front of them, and don't let go, and don't get disheartened by the lack of discourse from government. Yeah.
Can you paint a bit of a picture for us as to the negative impact you think will be from mums not staying home with their children?
Well, it's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, if you think about a single mother or a really low-income family having to go back after 14 weeks, you know, raising a baby is really hard. You know, raising a newborn is really difficult. If you add financial stress, financial burden to that equation, you know, it's horrible. And I just think, you know, like I said earlier, that all-important first year is vital for their development, and if mum has to go back after 14 weeks, you know, that's just really gonna not be good for the baby. It's just not good enough. You know, they can go to daycare or whatever, but it's, you know, it's not the same. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to you and your family, how does this legislation directly impact you?
Well, my partner's just given birth to our first child last week. She's only a week old. We are actually fortunate enough that I have just enough of an income to support us, but we're going to be tight. And I think that my partner Georgie is actually going to have to go back to work sooner than she'd like, and sooner than would be good for little Fallon, which is playing on our minds, but we're really trying not to think about it at the moment. So, I mean, if this bill was applicable to us, which I don't think we're going to see in our first year of our baby, it would be fantastic, and it would really lighten the load, but yeah.
Okay, so it's obviously impacting you directly. How can others support and find out more information?
Well, like I said before, really good first step would be that 26 for Babies, and their website is www.26forbabies.org. They're really pushing the issue really well. I think following them, supporting them, signing that e-postcard, and really educating yourself around it and learning why it's important to have that time, that extension, and looking at what other countries have done, and sort of asking the question, why is New Zealand at the bottom of the scale? You know, we're such a great country, but why are we behind on this issue?
That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video or photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow with more guests from in and around the region. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a wonderful evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.